Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the first training session of Affirmative Model United Nations 2.0. So, in this training session, basically, we are going to discuss that what an MUN is, what are the tricks of winning MUNs, what are the rules and regulations that you need to keep in mind while you are participating in MUNs and all that stuff. So, without wasting any more time, we'll get started with the session. So, I'll share my screen and I believe by now it would be visible. Let's start from the beginning now, right? So this is the first slide. I forgot to write affirmative here, but no worries, we'll work upon it. And now the second slide is what is modern United Nations? This is a question that would be popping in your mind that okay, MUN होता क्या है यार ये जो इतना लोग आजकल MUNs के बारे में बात करते हैं. So basically MUN is an academic simulation. Academic सुन के please परेशान मत हो जाना, यहाँ पर पढ़ाई नहीं करनी होती, यहाँ पर मजे भी करने होते हैं. So it's an academic simulation in which you play the role of a delegate. A delegate is a person who represents his or her own country. For example, the delegate of India, delegate of Brazil, delegate of USA, etc. And you discuss and deliberate upon different world issues and agendas, right? Now comes the roll call. In schools as well, we say present ma'am, present sir during the roll call. But MUNs has got a variation in everything, even in the roll calls. There are two things, and you have to say either of them during your roll call. First, let's understand what both present and voting means. So present is basically that you acknowledge your presence at the committee, but you would not vote upon any of the DR procedure. Now, what is voting and DR? We'll discuss upon it in the upcoming stages of this meeting, right? And present and voting is where you acknowledge your presence in the committee as well as you vote upon the DR or working paper during the committee. Now again, both these voting and DR thingy, we'll talk about it later in this video. Okay. Okay, so these are a few important terms, right? After the roll call is done, the executive board. Now the executive board are the judges who would be judging you, who would be giving you marks upon your speeches, upon your decorum, and on your behavior in the committee. So after the roll call is done, the executive board will say, the executive board is looking for a motion to establish the agenda. Are there any motions on the floor? So in this, what you need to do is, since it's an online conference, second edition of Affirmative MUN, you need to raise your virtual hands and the EB will recognize any one of you, right? And then you have to say a simple line. The delegate of XYZ country, in place of XYZ, you need to replace the name of the country that you are representing during the conference. The delegate, for example, the delegate of India would like to establish the agenda. I'll take the agenda of our UNHRC committee, that is deliberation upon the special provisions of climate refugees with special emphasis on the 1951 Refugee Convention. This is how you need to establish the agenda. After the agenda is established, what will happen is you all would move on to the general speakers list. Ab GSL hota kya hai? This is a main question. GSL is basically the first round in which you need to deliver your speeches. In GSL, you would be allotted 90 seconds. 90 seconds is it's an individual speaker's time where every delegate would get 90 seconds to deliver his or her speech. In this, you need to add your policies of your countries and different programs that your country has launched to tackle the agenda on which you are discussing. Along with these policies and programs, you also need to talk about your personal solutions. And let me mind you, when I'm talking about solutions, you do not need to use chat GPT or internet for finding solutions. You need to propose your own solutions that you personally feel that pops up in your mind after reading the agenda, right? You please do not serve the internet for all these solutions. It would lead to negative marking. Basically, in GSL, again, summarizing it, you'll get 90 seconds. You need to talk about your policies and programs of your country in brief. And after that, everything is over for the GSL from your end. Okay. Now, there's one thing that you need to keep in mind during the general speakers list. That is, GSL is non-suspendable, which means it will never end during the committee. It will keep on taking place on both days of the committee. With this, I mean is that all the delegates would not be taken up in one go only. For example, if there are 20 people in one committee, right? What the executive board will do, the EB can take 5 people, 5 delegates in one go. After that, the EB will move on to the moderated caucus. But for the 15 delegates who would not deliver the speeches, they do not need to worry at all. Because after the moderated caucus is completed, they'll automatically jump back to the GSL. And after taking 3 to 4 more speeches of GSL, they'll do again one more moderated caucus. After that is completed, they'll do some more speeches of GSL. So in this way, it is an interplay of GSL speeches and moderated caucus speeches. However, moderated caucus speeches will be taken in one go only. One round of moderated caucus will be completed in one go, and it is not like the GSL speech. Okay. Now a question arises, a moderated caucus kya hota hai yaar? So moderated caucus is basically a subtopic that you derive from the main agenda. Okay. For example, again, taking climate refugees. So from climate refugees, you need to derive different subtopics on which you need to deliberate in the moderated caucus. A subtopic for this can be deliberation upon addressing the loopholes of certain refugee policies, right? There are many policies that have been launched by the United Nations, but many loopholes are there. Loopholes mean drawbacks. Okay? मतलब को क्या क्या problems है policies में in layman language. As a delegate, because it's an MUN conference, you can raise such agendas where you try and deliberate upon the loopholes of certain policies and try to make the policies better by giving your suggestions and personal opinions and reviews, right? So in these ways, you need to actually shortlist the moderated caucus topics. For one committee, I'll say shortlist at least 6 to 7 moderated caucus topics and keep 2 to 3 topics as a backup, right? That if one moderated caucus topic do not work, you can replace it with the other one, with the backup one, right? So in moderated caucus as well, you'll get a time limit, okay? So there are 3 time limits that are actually possible in moderated caucus. 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds. In other words, 1 minute, 1 minute, 30 seconds, and exact 2 minutes. Okay. I'll recommend you all to go with 90 seconds because 90 seconds is more than enough to deliver all the important points of your speeches. Okay. Now, another thing that you need to keep in mind is a divisibility factor. And यहाँ पर maths आपको लगाना पड़ेगा. Okay. So what you need to do is that you need to make sure the total time limit is divisible by the individual time limit. अब दोनों होते क्या है, टोटल टाइम लिमिट एंड इंडिविजुअल टाइम लिमिट. इंडिविजुअल टाइम लिमिट तो हमने जीएसएल में भी बात किया था, जिसमें इंडिविजुअल टाइम लिमिट में एवरी डेलीगेट वुड बी अलॉटेड दैट मच अमाउंट ऑफ टाइम. Total time limit is that for how much time one round of moderated caucus will take place, in which all the delegates would be given an opportunity to speak. There are various total time limits, 15 minutes भी होता है, 20 minutes भी होता है, 10 minutes भी होता है, depending upon the strength of the committee. अगर ज्यादा लोग हैं तो ज्यादा टोटल टाइम होगा, अगर कम है तो कम होगा टोटल टाइम. You need to make sure that the total time limit is divisible by the individual time limit. For example, the total time limit is 20 minutes and the individual time limit is 60 seconds. So you need to first convert 20 minutes into seconds and then you need to divide both 60 and that 20 into 60 would be equal to 1200 seconds. So 1200 divided by 60, so it will be somewhere, yeah, so it is divisible. It is divisible. But when I'm dividing 1200 by 90, so it is not divisible. If I'm dividing 1200 by 120, it is divisible. You need to keep all these things in mind so that you can actually proceed further with the committee in a much more smoother way. If the time limits are not divisible, it can lead to the cancellation of the topic of the moderated caucus, and plus it will also hamper the proceedings of the committee, right? So please keep in mind all these factors. Now, unmoderated caucus. In unmoderated caucus, you do not need to deliver any speech. Unmoderated caucus is basically lobbying. What is lobbying now? So lobbying is basically an informal session, I'll say, in which you can discuss and deliberate with other delegates that, okay, these are the topics that we can now discuss further in the committees. Unmoderated caucus is very important in situations where you have shortlisted the topics of moderated caucus on your committee groups. That can be either on WhatsApp, Telegram, and like also on Instagram nowadays. But those topics are not working and they are not being passed in the committee. So in unmoderated caucus, you can rebuild your strategies that, okay, this is how we can now proceed with the committee. These are the new topics and you can proceed further. In unmoderated caucus, you can also research about your speeches. Like if you are left with a certain amount, a certain part of your speech and you need to do some research work, you can research about that. So you need to, extremely sorry for that, for the cough. You need to utilize the time of the unmoderated caucus very efficiently, right? Okay, now another important term is yielding time. So what is yielding time now? For example, yielding time ऐसा होता है कि you're delivering a GSL speech. So while delivering a GSL speech, out of 90 seconds, you spoke only for 80 seconds and 10 seconds are left. So the EB will ask, delegate, you are left with 10 seconds. How would you like to yield your time, right? So you can say the delegate of India or delegate of USA, UK, anything, would like to yield the time. Now, there are many ways in which you can yield the time, right? Either yield to POIs. POIs is point of information. Point of information क्या होता है वो हम आगे discuss करेंगे. Second is yield to chairperson. Chairperson is the main judge of the executive board. With chairperson, you have vice chairperson, and below vice chairperson is the rapporteur. We'll discuss their roles as well in the later part of this video. Okay. So when you yield those 10 seconds to the chairperson, it's up to the chairperson of how he or she needs to use those 10 seconds. It's up to him or her. Okay. Another way of yielding time is yield time to another delegate. That you want to yield your remaining 10 seconds to the other delegate. For example, the delegate of India can yield the 10 seconds to the delegate of USA. Okay. But I'll recommend you all not to do this because you need to be a little clever in MUNs, right? In MUNs, you need to make sure that leaving friendship behind, you first need to look at your country's situation. That, okay, this is the diplomatic policy that my country is stating. For example, if you're representing India and your friend is representing Pakistan, obviously you will not support your friend because your friend is representing Pakistan and Pakistan has a completely different foreign policy and India has a completely different foreign policy, right? So you have to be very clever that in MUNs, first you need to make sure that you are in a strong position and then you help out the other delegates. Why I'm saying that you should not yield the time to other delegate is that sometimes what happens is that the other delegate might have some good points that can overshadow the points that are being stated by you. You need to make sure that your points are being first heard by the chairperson and then the other delegates deliver their speeches. You need to keep all these things in mind, and because basically at the end of the day it's a competition and you would be fighting for the best delegate, high commendation, special mention. If you're fighting for it, then you need to be clever, you need to use your mind, you need to be quite confident with your approach, and yes, then you can easily win MUN conferences. Okay, now how to raise a motion. So this is very important. When you before speaking for the GSL, it's not as if ki, okay, mera man kar hai GSL bolne ka, so I'll speak. No, that's not the case. So what happens is that the executive board will say the EB is looking for a motion to establish the general speakers list. Are there any motions on the floor? Then you have to raise your virtual hands. Okay. And you have then the EB will recognize you by the name of your country. And one more thing, in MUNs, you are not called by your personal names. You're not called by Darsh Prakash. You're not called by Sharda Vinayak. You're not called by Gunika Arora, right? These are the names of my Deputy Secretary General and Secretary General. Right? Okay. Okay. So you're not called by your personal name. You're called as the delegate of India, delegate of Australia. You're called by delegate of China, right? So the EB will recognize you as, yes, delegate of China, for example. Then you'll unmute your microphone in online conferences. In offline conferences, you get placards. You need to raise your placards. The EB will recognize you. You'll stand up and you'll say, the delegate of XYZ country. In place of XYZ, you need to write the name of your own country that you are representing. Would like to establish the general speakers list for the total time being 90 seconds on the topic. After saying the topic, you need to copy paste. You need to entirely say the agenda of your committee. This is how you need to raise the motion of a GSL, right? After GSL comes a moderated caucus. Then again, the EB will say the EB is looking for motions on the floor. Are there any motions? Then again, you have to say the delegate of XYZ country would like to suspend the formal debate. Formal debate here refers to the general speakers list. And move into a moderated caucus on the topic. Then you need to mention the topic of the moderated caucus, like deliberation upon addressing the loopholes of certain policies for the total timing, time limit 20 minutes, 15 minutes, kitna, and individual speakers time being 60, 90 or 120 seconds. And extremely sorry, here in the GSL, I wrote total time. It should be individual speakers time, right? Now coming on to unmoderated caucus. Again, for unmoderated caucus as well, you need to say the delegate of XYZ country would like to suspend the formal debate and move into an unmoderated caucus for the total time being, and you have to specify the time limit. I'll recommend you all to keep the time limit of unmoderated caucus as 20 minutes maximum. 20 minutes is more than enough to discuss upon your future plans of the committee, right? Now, after this, it's not as if that you just say all these motions and you start with the GSL. No, a voting procedure is also there. Now, what is a voting procedure? For example, a committee has 20 people. It needs a majority. 50 plus 1 की majority यहाँ पर follow होती है. In a committee of 20 people, you need a special majority of 11 delegates who are in favor of your motions being raised, right? If the motions, if the votes are less, if the votes are less than 11, then your motion will not pass. And if your votes are 11 or more than 11, then the motions will clearly pass. So it depends upon कि कितने लोग होते हैं committee में. I just took an example of 20 people. There are various committees that have 180 or 190 delegates as well in the committees, and that the voting and the majority level increases drastically. So you need to keep in mind the total strength of the committees and what is the majority that you require. And according to that, you need to raise the motions at a specific point of time. Okay. Now moving forward. Okay. So again, this is again a very important slide. So these are certain points that are extremely useful during your MUN conferences. So this point of order, point of clarification, and right to reply. These are a few complicated points that I'll not recommend you all to focus upon right now. But I'll briefly explain point of order. Point of order is basically, for example, the delegate of China imposes certain remarks on the delegate of India, and the delegate of India feels that no, these points are not correct, or the delegate of China has stated wrong figures and statistics. So the delegate of India can raise a point of order and can state the delegate of China has raised wrong statements against the delegate of India, and the delegate of India would like to request the delegate of China to kindly not mislead the House. And this way the point of order works. Coming on to POIs, point of information. A point of information हमने yielding time में बात किया था, जिसमें आप time yield कर सकते हो अगर time बचा है speeches में. Okay. Now, one more aspect of yielding time is that you can only yield time in GSL, general speakers list. Moderated caucus mein, if you're left with any time limit, it is automatically yielded to the chairperson. In that, you need not yield the time to anyone. Okay. So point of information is basically a point that allows you to ask a question to the other delegate. There are two ways of raising a POI. One is the written form, and another is the verbal form. Okay. In offline and online conferences, in many places, I've seen written POIs as well, and I've also seen verbal POIs. Okay. So in written POIs, a specific format is followed. That is, first you write the name of your country, then you write the name of the delegates country to whom you are asking the POI. After that, you write via VIA -EB, executive board. And after that, you write the entire question that you have along with the valid proof. Okay. Now, verbal POIs is a little different in terms of format, but it has the same use. It has the same use. Okay. So in verbal POIs, what happens is if the time is left in GSL and the delegate yields to POIs, the executive board will ask, are there any POIs on the floor? Then you can raise your virtual hands. You'll get the opportunity to ask a question. Now, there's a sensation that, okay, मुझे satisfaction नहीं है इस answer से. I want to counter question the delegate. You can't counter question like that only. You need to ask your chairperson or vice chairperson, whosoever is present in the committee at that point of time, chair/vice chair, yield to follow up. Now, plead to follow up, pardon, not yield, plead to follow up. Now it's up to the chairperson to grant that permission to you or not. If the chairperson feels that the delegate has answered the question in terms of the question being asked, then the permission is not granted. But if the delegate has not answered the question accurately with the valid points, then definitely the split to follow up can be very useful for the delegate who is asking the question. Okay. Now coming on to point of inquiry. For example, if you are late in the committee, okay, and you want to ask and you are lost that, okay, what is happening in the committee? I do not know anything. What you can do, you can raise a point of inquiry. You can ask the chairperson that, okay, what is happening in the committee? Sir, please tell me. Sir, ma'am, please tell me. And this is where point of inquiry comes into play. Then you want to ask something, right? And then comes point of personal privilege. Point of personal privilege is like if you want to go to the washroom, you want to fill your water bottle. There are a few network problems, and then we have our interns in offline conferences who actually help you fix the network problems. Point of personal privilege can also be used that if you're feeling very cold, if you're sitting directly in front of the AC and it's working at 16 degrees Celsius, so obviously it would feel as if you're in Iceland or any country as if like Switzerland or in Jammu and Kashmir where it snows a lot. So you can get the AC's temperature fixed. You can ask the AC to be switched off and all that stuff. So these are the points basics that you need to remember. These are a few more rules. Like the English is the official language of all the committees in MUNs. However, there is a committee that is known as AIPPM, that is the All India Political Parties Meet. In that, both Hindi and English are the official languages of the committee. However, in UN committees, only English is the official language. Then electronic devices. I know that we all are Gen Zs and we like watching series and all those. And see, I don't watch that many series, but I have seen my friends watching series, and we are very much active on social media. We all have Instagram accounts and all those Facebook accounts, Twitter, and all that stuff. But for these 2 days, you all have to go on a social media detox during the 2 days of the committee. You can't use any social media account during the committee, right? And you need to keep everything off. You need to keep your Amazon Prime, Netflix, Instagram, Facebook, and video games. Everything you need to switch off everything. It's better that you switch off your mobile phone as well, right? Because if you're caught playing video games or typing something on social media, so it can lead to negative marking because it's not considered discipline, right? You need to be very disciplined during the committee because the executive board actually wants you all to be very disciplined because it's a UN conference. In UN conference, you all need to be very serious with the roles that you have been given, with the agendas that you need to discuss, right? These are a few more rules, and now the dress code. So these are the basic dress codes that we follow in MUNs, right? So on day one, mostly we wear Western formals, and on day two, we wear Indian formals. I've attached the photos as well so that you can just get to know a brief idea that, okay, these are the Western formals and these are the Indian formals. On the left side, we have the Western formals, and on the right side, we have the Indian formals. You can have a look at it. And it's also the completely opposite at times, that on day one you can wear Indian formals and on day two you wear Western formals. So it can go haywire as well depending upon the rules and regulations of a particular MUN organization. Okay. Okay, so it's not the doubt session. It has not ended right now. Now, one major thing that I want to discuss with you right now, actually not one, two major things. Both these things are considered as 50-50 godfathers of MUNs. Why I'm saying 50-50? Because both these things have an equal amount of weightage in your MUN scorecard, right? Okay, so first of all, what is a draft resolution? And this is my favorite part of every MUN conference that I have done. Like I desperately wait for the draft resolution to start because it's the most interesting part of every MUN conference. Okay, so draft resolution is basically a two-pager document in which you summarize all the points that you have discussed with the other delegates during the conference. Okay. Basically, in these 2 pages, you need to summarize all the points being stated during the committee regarding certain policies and what all changes you require, what all things you can do in the future, and all that stuff, right? So there's a basic format that you need to follow. So this is an example of a General Assembly draft resolution. A General Assembly means a UNGA assembly. And so we all can have a look at it. So this is a very professional one that I have taken out so that you can get a good idea and a good glimpse of what an actual draft resolution looks like. So first of all, you need to write the committee. So it's a general assembly. Then you need to write the topic. Topic is the agenda that you discussed during the committee. After that, you need to write sponsors and signatories. Now, what are sponsors and signatories? Sponsors are basically those people who actually write the draft resolution. So here's Lesotho, Malawi, and Tuvalu. These are the three countries that have actually written the draft resolution, right? And now comes the signatories. There are four signatories who are Angola, Bangladesh, Yemen, and Zambia, right? So sponsors are those who write the draft resolution, whereas signatories are those people who may or may not agree with the drafting of the draft resolution, but they would want that, okay, we can discuss the draft resolution just to get a glimpse of what we have discussed during the committee. Signatories do not take that much active participation during the draft resolution making as much the sponsors do, right? So now after writing all these things, you need to basically just jot down these points that like they have written, reminding all nations of the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So all these topics are with all these points are with respect to the agenda that has been assigned to them. Okay. So you can exceed it, you can like exceed it up to 2 pages. That's not a problem at all. That's not a problem at all. And now coming on to another important rule for the DR. You need to keep in mind the font size and the font name as well. The font size should be 12 and the font name should be Times New Roman. Keep these two things as well in mind. Okay. Now coming on to another important thing, that is the position paper. Position paper is a document that you submit to your executive board before the committee, in which you basically provide a gist to your executive board members that, okay, this is what this is what your country has done, and all these points you would be discussing in the MUN. It is just to give an overview to the EB that what about the basic stance of the country with respect to the agenda, right? So it again, it follows a specific format. So first of all, this is the name of the delegate. Below that, she has written the name of her portfolio. That is the country that she is representing. And you need not write this the name of this university. Then this is the first committee. So it's a DISEC, it's a UNGA DISEC committee. In DISEC, we basically discuss mostly about the nuclear weapons and international security and disarmament of nuclear weapons. That's a patent topic for DISEC committees. Then, this is the basic speech, not a speech. This is the basic format that she has followed. She has divided it in different paragraphs for better understanding. In the first paragraph, she has basically provided a brief introduction about the topic. And in the second paragraph, she has written about the world policies, about her own country's policies that have been adopted to actually get the issue resolved. Okay. And now there's another paragraph that you need to add in this. That is the third paragraph. In the third paragraph, you need to write the solutions of your agenda. Again, the solutions need not be copied from ChatGPT. Please do not use ChatGPT in copying the solutions. Please do not use the internet to search the solutions. All these solutions are your personal solutions that you want to be presented in front of the executive board. Please provide your personal solutions and do not use any website to find the solutions. Okay. So this is basically what an MUN is, right? And now you all would be thinking, sir, please provide us with the tricks of winning Best Delegate Award, right? So the most easiest and the basic trick of winning the Best Delegate Award is to actually be confident with the speeches that you're giving. Delegates would counter question you on many topics, on many of the points that are being stated by you, but you need not lose your confidence about the points that you have used. To be the best delegate, only use official UN websites and official government websites. Do not use third-party websites. Do not use news channel websites. All these websites are misleading. Only UN websites and government websites need to be considered during the MUN conferences. And one more thing, I'm missing out on one more thing that I just remembered. You all need to have a substantive chit ready with you. Now, what is this? You need not keep that ready, but you need to keep that in mind if you are actually left with some part of your speech that you could not deliver and you want that to be addressed by the executive board. You can use a substantive chit and send your remaining part of the speech to the executive board. A substantive chit follows a very simple format in which you write your country's name via EB, and then you write the points. Okay. Now, one major thing that I wanted to discuss with you in substantive chit that will also be a very crucial part in your position paper is that you need to keep in mind the plagiarism. Plagiarism is basically the amount of content that you have copied from the website that you are using for your research with. So I'll just tell you all a website that I use for plagiarism checker, and that is of Grammarly. This is a very good website, and plus it is trustworthy enough. So you can use it without any fear of online hacking and all. In this, what happens is, first of all, you need to copy paste the entire content that you are actually gonna use in your position paper or the substantive chit. After that, after that, you need to download the file from where you got the content on the internet. You need to download the file, you need to upload that file here, and then you need to click scan for plagiarism. Okay. Now, after that, what will happen is that a report will come, a plagiarism report will come in which the plagiarism percentage will be given. The plagiarism percentage should not exceed more than 15%, 15, not 50, 15%. If the plagiarism exceeds 15%, you need to continue your research work, you need to change your speech, because if it exceeds 15%, it will lead to negative marking. So if you do not want negative marking, keep your plagiarism well below 15%. And this applies to both the position paper as well as the substantive chit. Okay. So this is all from my end. What I'll do one thing, I'll post the links of the position paper as well as DR in the description box of YouTube. You can have a look at it. You can get to know what a DR and a draft, you can get to know what a DR and a position paper is. I'll attach my personal Instagram page as well as my MUN's Instagram page in the description box. You can follow us on Instagram. You can anytime tag me on my Instagram page to ask your doubts and queries. And do join the Affirmative family for many more such exciting videos. If you have not registered for Affirmative MUN 2.0, please register for it. I'll also attach the registration link in the description box. Okay, so this is all from my end. Thank you everyone for joining and have a nice day ahead.